WM-2022-0186 Foxfire, right?
Yep.
Check. 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 Check.
One, two, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2.
Any presentations that you're aware of?
What?
Is anyone contacted about presentations?
Contacted me about presentations. I think they're doing the whole thing off the filings.
Okay.
I think all the bets are in, so.
square to the left that says Jackie over here. There'll be a couple more, when they join, there'll be a couple on top, but
Like,
that's
let me
about
know
it.
when that bench comes in. You know, I should probably have that on my screen. Is that gonna be a huge problem?
No, that's what I was saying, if you want it on your screen, just make sure to
Just
mute.
so I can read that, just so I can read the names. on
That's
there.
what I was saying, all you have to do is join the WebEx meeting, but you have to mute that station or it could introduce you back.
Start me off in Microsoft.
I mean, if you wanna see it out there, that's WebEx. So just, all you have to do is go to your, email and go to the calendar, today's date, and it should have a join meeting, and just launch that join meeting.
Thanks for preparing the meeting for me now.
Okay,
Setting up the room, grabbing some chairs.
there you go, or you like that.
With the whiteboard.
Okay. So, And it's basically just keep feedback from coming back into your mic and then back, you know, whole chain. So,
Have I done it properly?
yeah,
So I've done it properly and I don't have to do anything else?
I think so.
I love it when that happens.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be hearing feedback if,
I figured.
yeah, if it were bad.
Mic check, audio mic check from the testify. Check 1, 2. Check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Check. Check.
Okay, let's bring this proceeding to order and go on the record. Good morning. Today is October 24th, 2022. The time is 9 a.m. The commission has set aside this time for an evidentiary hearing in the case captioned as in the matter of the application of Foxfire Utility Company for authority to transfer certain water and sewer assets located in Stone County, Missouri to Ozark Clean Water Company, and in connection therewith certain other related transactions. File number WM-2022-0186. My name is Ross Keeling, and I'm the regulatory law judge presiding over this hearing. The hearing is taking place in the Public Service Commission hearing room, 310 of the Governor Office Building in Jefferson City, Missouri. However, there are some attendees that are also participating over the internet via Cisco WebEx. Okay, let's have counsel for the parties make their entries of appearance, and please speak into the microphone.
Judge, this is Dean Cooper, Bryden Swearingen in England, PC, P.O. Box 456, Jefferson City, Missouri 65102, along with Jesse Craig. I represent both Foxfire Utility Company and Ozark's Clean Water Company.
Scott Stacy, staff counsel, 200 Madison Street, Jefferson City, Missouri 65101.
Mark Poston for the Office of the Public Counsel.
Thank you very much. For those in the hearing room, I'll ask everyone to silence all their cell phones and mobile devices. And if you're in the hearing room and also log on to WebEx, I ask that you log off of WebEx to avoid feedback and other potential audio issues. Also, for those in the hearing room, please be aware of when your microphones are on, indicated by a green light, and when they are off. For those connected via WebEx, I ask that you mute your microphone when not speaking. Also, the court reporter today is not present in the hearing room, but is participating via WebEx. Therefore, it's important that you speak into the hearing room microphones so that she can hear all the proceedings. Since we don't have a court reporter to handle exhibits, if you have any additional exhibits that haven't been filed, please bring them up to me and I'll mark them. Also, because of that, if you have an objection at any time, please identify yourself to this so the transcriptionist won't have any problems knowing who the speaker is. Also, I'd like to welcome commissioners here who are present this morning. We have Commissioners Sylvie and Commissioner Holzman. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Judge.
Morning, Judge.
I think some other commissioners may have joined as well.
Yes, Judge, this is Commissioner Kochmeyer. I'm also on here.
Good morning, Commissioner Kochmeyer.
Good morning.
Commissioner Coleman is in attendance.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Do we have any preliminary matters before we actually start? None? Are there any changes to the joint witnesses and cross-examination filed on Wednesday, October 12th? Okay, are all exhibits pre-marked and ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll have opening statements. And we'll begin with Foxfire and Ozark.
Thank you, Judge. Dean Cooper appearing on behalf of both Foxfire and what I will refer to as OCWC. As you're probably aware, the Missouri Supreme Court's assessment of appropriate standard for transactions involving the sale of public utility property begins with the constitutional concept of property rights. The owners of property have a constitutional right to determine whether to sell their property or not. The Missouri Supreme Court has stated within the context of such public utility sales that to deny them that right would be to deny them an incident important to ownership of property. A property owner should be allowed to sell his property unless it would be detrimental to the public. In this case, OCWC's acquisition of Foxfire's assets will not be detrimental to the public. Foxfire currently provides both water and sewer service to approximately 258 customers, and known growth will add approximately 21 water and sewer customers in the near future. The Foxfire service area is a condominium development. The company serves the condominium units, 3 offices, 4 swimming pool, hot tub areas, and 2 irrigation systems. Condominiums typically represent second homes, investment properties, or both for their owners. Foxfire has no other water or sewer systems. The primary owner of Foxfire is now 70 years, has been involved in the water and sewer business for approximately 48 years, and wishes to fully retire. He has no intention to be involved in any capacity with the operation, maintenance, or management of public drinking water systems or wastewater collection and treatment systems in the future. Ozark's Clean Water Company is a nonprofit sewer company under the Missouri statutes and a nonprofit water company under the Missouri statutes. OCWC currently provides water and sewer service to approximately 2,380 locations, consisting of 1,860 sewer connections, 300 water-only connections, and 220 water and sewer connections at the same property, all provided through 13 water systems, 19 permitted sewer systems, 1 sewer treatment system, 2 sewer collection systems, and 1 interceptor system that does not require permits. OCWC enjoys a positive working relationship with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, which has relayed to staff that there are no outstanding concerns with service issues with any OCWC system. OCWC's financial structure is designed to address multiple improvement and maintenance for all of its properties. OCWC rates include operation, maintenance, administration, overhead, and reserve for repair. Currently, OCWC's Board of Directors has established a reserve account funded at 75% of its annual operation and maintenance budget. OCWC proposes to use the existing rates for Foxfire customers for at least 1 year following the acquisition. Further, customers will receive several conveniences associated with OCWC ownership that are not currently available with Foxfire. These benefits include ACH auto payment, email billing, online payment and account histories, and text alerts. OCWC has economies of scale, experience, technical ability, and financial wherewithal that will enable it to provide water and sewer service to Foxfire customers and is in all ways qualified to own and operate the Foxfire water and sewer assets. The only party position in opposition is from the Office of the Public Counsel, whose stated opposition concerns the amount of what it calls acquisition premium, something that has no meaning and no import in the world of a nonprofit water and sewer company such as OCWC. Mr. Casaletto has testified both as to the reasonableness of the purchase price agreed to in this case and his analysis of the sufficiency of existing rates in regard to maintaining safe and adequate service to include a reserve for future maintenance and repair needs. It will not surprise me if Mr. Poston mentions the case State XRL AG Processing Inc. v. PSC later in his opening or in the briefs when we get around to that part of this process. While we should have plenty of opportunity to discuss this case if necessary in the briefs, I'd like to take a minute to touch on it here. The AG Processing case concerned Utilicorp's attempt to purchase St. Joseph Light and Power. The court sent the case back for additional findings as the commission did not initially address acquisition premium and instead said it could be addressed in a future case. Of course, because Utilicorp regulated company, as was St. Joseph Light and Power, whether Utilicorp would be allowed recovery on and of any acquisition premium arguably would have had an impact on future rates. That is not the case with OCWC, as OCWC is a nonprofit water and sewer company, not regulated by the commission, and does not set rates within a regulated utility format, calling for return on and of investments. As I said before, and I'll expand it a little bit here, the terms rate base, acquisition premium, net original cost, and rate of return really have no import or meaning within the operations of OCWC. The commission recognized in its Lake Region Water and Sewer Company case from 2017, which was cited in the staff recommendation, that the water district purchaser in that case of regulated properties had no motive for seeking profits. Similarly, in this case, there is no motivation for OCWC as a nonprofit water and sewer company to seek profit. In addressing the comparison that is important for the not detrimental to the public standard, I think the comparison is between the ownership by OCWC under the terms proposed and continued ownership by Foxfire. I think it's significant that OCWC is different from many small regulated companies. First, as a 501c3 charitable nonprofit, and as mentioned before, there is no profit motive. As a nonprofit, OCWC serves the public by protecting water quality and the public health. Second, a small standalone company such as Foxfire has a much higher cost per customer because it does not have the larger number of customers over which to spread its costs that OCWC does. OCWC, with over 30 water and wastewater systems and just under 2,400 customers, can these costs and have a much lower cost per customer on a going forward basis. The proposed transaction is not detrimental to the public and is likely of benefit to the public when one takes into account the larger nature of OCWC, the benefits to be available to the Foxfire customers, and the long-term stability of the provider of services for those Foxfire customers. The Commission should authorize the transfer of assets from Foxfire to OCWC subject to the 5 conditions proposed by staff in its recommendation that was filed on June 28th of 2022. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Are there any commissioners who have any questions for Mr. Cooper? Hearing none, we'll proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Stacy?
Good morning, Your Honor and Commission. May it please the Commission. My name is Scott Stacy and counsel for staff. Mr. Jared Robinson and Keith Foster are here today on behalf of staff and available to answer any questions you may have. There are 2 issues before the Commission. They are, should the Commission find that the sale or transfer of Fox Utility Company's water and wastewater assets to Ozark Clean Water Company is not detrimental to the public interest, and approve the transaction? And if so, what conditions, if any, should the Commission impose on such approval? The Commission should find the sale transfer is not detrimental to the public interest and approve the transaction. The facts will show that staff did an investigation, reviewed corporation documents, and found that Ozark's Clean Water Company, OCC, Board of Directors properly created a nonprofit water and sewer utility under the provisions of Chapter 335 and organized originally as a nonprofit sewer utility within the parameters of Sections 393.825 through 393.861 of the revised statutes of Missouri. Under the provisions of Section 393.829, subparagraph 15, nonprofit sewer utilities may also provide services and assume responsibilities of nonprofit water utilities. While OCWC is not subject to the jurisdiction of the Commission, OCWC is led by a board of directors elected by the customers who oversee and control the operations of OCWC and preside over any customer issues, and OCWC will remain under the regulatory authority of the Department of Natural Resources. OCWC currently maintains multiple water and sewer systems in the area and has kept these systems in compliance with DNR requirements. OCWC appears to have the technical and financial wherewithal to operate and maintain the Foxfire system as well. OCWC received an offer from Foxfire, which was voted on by a majority of the board of directors and was accepted. Owner of Foxfire, Rick Helms, abstained from the vote. OCWC has indicated that it will not raise rates upon Foxfire customers for at least a year following the acquisition. Staff takes the position that the proposed transfer and sale of assets from Foxfire to OCWC is not detrimental to the public interest and therefore recommends approval. If so, what conditions, if any, should the commission approve on such approval? Staff recommends approval of the sale of the transfer and assets with the following conditions. Require Foxfire to notify the commission of closing on the transfer of water and sewer assets to OCWC within 5 days after closing. Authorize Foxfire to cease providing service immediately after closing on assets. If closing on Foxfire's assets does not take place within 30 days following the effective date of the commission's order, require Foxfire to submit a status report in file number WM-2022-0186 within 5 days after the 30-day period regarding the status of closing, and additional status reports within 5 days after each additional 30-day period until closing takes place, or until Foxfire determines that the transfer of the assets will not occur. If Foxfire determines that a transfer of assets will not occur, require Foxfire to notify the commission of such, and after the above notice of transfer of assets to OCWC is received from Foxfire, cancel the CCN applying to Foxfire Village of Indian Point service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any questions from the commissioners for Mr. Stacy?
No questions, Judge. Commissioner Holzman.
Are there any others? Hearing none, we will proceed. Thank you very much, Mr. Stacy.
Good morning. May it please the Commission. My name is Mark Poston. I'm here on behalf of the Office of the Public Counsel and the public. When the Commission granted a certificate to Foxfire in 1995, it determined that it was in the public interest for this system to be regulated by the Commission. Now the applicants bear the burden of proving that the transfer of these customers outside of the Commission's jurisdiction, outside of the Commission's protection, under the terms proposed, will not be a detriment to the public interest. I believe the applicants will not be able to establish that this transfer, as proposed, would not be a detriment to Foxfire's 258 customers. I believe the evidence necessary to deny the application can be accomplished through cross-examination and the existing testimony from the staff and the applicants. So I know some of the commissioners were wondering why the OPC has no witness, and that is why. And the first relevant fact the evidence will demonstrate will be the existence of a very large acquisition premium should the Commission allow the transfer at the price proposed. The staff's recommendation states that the purchase price includes an almost $1.2 million acquisition premium, which is 13 times larger than the approximate $90,000 in rate base. Such a large acquisition premium certainly distinguishes this case from the past cases that have been cited by staff and the applicants. The longstanding practice of the Commission in cases where assets are transferred between two regulated entities is to not allow recovery of an acquisition premium. I ask that the Commission apply the same rationale regardless of where the assets are going, meaning regardless of whether the transfer is to a regulated or a unregulated entity. And the basis for this is that the ultimate impact on the public that you're protecting is the same. The premium will likely at some point in time result in increased rates to cover the premium. When transferring assets to regulated entities, the Commission rejects attempts to recover the premium, and that's based on the longstanding net original cost rule. To quote the Commission from the 2004 St. Power merger with Utilicor that Mr. Cooper mentioned before, that's case EM 2000-292, the Commission explains, quote, As a general rule, only the original cost of utility plant to the first owner devoting the property to public service, adjusted for depreciation, should be included in rate base." End quote. The commission stated that the purpose of the net original cost rule is, quote, "to protect ratepayers from having to pay higher rates simply because ownership of utility plant has changed without any actual change in the usefulness of the plant," end quote. The commission goes on to explain that this artificially inflates rate base. The commission also states that the net original cost rule works to the utility's advantage if assets are acquired for a price below their book value, which is common. When that happens, the utility is still allowed to include the undepreciated plant in rates. So the net original cost rule provides a balance between ratepayer and company. The staff states in its recommendation that absent previous commission guidance, staff would not recommend approval of this proposed transfer. And the staff cited to two past commission decisions that form the basis for its decision not to oppose the asset transfer. And I'll address the most recent first, which is case WM-2017-0186. This was a transfer of assets from Lake Region Water and Sewer to Camden County Public Water Supply District. The purchase price more than doubled the value of rate base. In that case, the staff also questioned the close relationship between the buyer and the seller. The staff recommended the commission reject the transfer. But the commission approved the transfer anyway. The commission said Camden Water District is a political subdivision that has no motive for seeking profits. It's answerable to voters, and it's obligated by statute to set reasonable rates. However, future attempts to seek profits are not the concern. The concern is the huge $1.2 million debt that Foxfire customers will carry for the next 20 years. Profit motivation is irrelevant to this point. And sure, OCWC members get to vote on their directors, but they can't vote to expunge this huge debt burden. If you approve the sale at a price that includes the premium, the damage is already done. The burden will plague these customers for 2 decades. Also distinguishing the Foxfire case from the Lake Region case is that the Lake Region premium was 1.6 times rate base, whereas here the Foxfire price is 13 times rate base. The commission also indicated that in the Lake Region case, that an independent valuation of the system supported the price. In the present case, we have no independent valuation. We do have a close relationship between the buyer and the seller. In the other case referenced by the staff, WM-2015-0231, Ozark Shores Water, sought to transfer assets also to Camden Water District, and the staff's reasons for recommending a rejection of the transfer was a concern over self-dealing among leadership of the applicants. To overcome this concern, the commission held that the company did not participate in the valuation analysis and did not attempt to influence the price of the assets. The evidence in this case will demonstrate the exact opposite is true for the proposal before you. My post-hearing brief will explain all of this in greater detail. It will distinguish this case from the past decisions and will explain exactly how the transfer would be a detriment. And the last point I'd like to make is to briefly discuss customer impact. And I included some math in a footnote on my position statement that I'm going to revise here because I understated the harmful impact. According to the promissory note attached to Mr. Castelletto's testimony, OCWC will be obligated to pay Mr. Helms $6,599.41 per month, starting in 2023 and ending 20 years later in 2043. If we divide that monthly obligation by the 258 customers on this, that equals $25.57 per month per customer. That's a very large and extremely unreasonable burden, and clearly a detriment to these customers. That amounts to approximately $80,000 per year to Mr. Helms for a system that brings in approximately $200,000 per year, meaning 40% of the revenue coming in will be used to pay this debt. And it doesn't matter if present rates can cover that $25 burden because That 20-year obligation removes the cushion that would otherwise be able to absorb future investments. Present rates are set such that if the company needed to make a large investment in plant, it could likely do so without needing to raise rates, but not if this transfer is allowed with a premium. Rates would have to go up. These customers in this system are currently under the Commission's protection, and we ask that you simply protect them as intended. We ask that you deny the transfer until they come back with a sale price that does not include the premium.
Are there any questions for Mr. Poston from the Commissioners?
Judge, this is Commissioner Sylvie. Question.
Okay.
Mr. Poston, did I hear you correctly? You said you didn't put on witnesses or offer testimony because you're going to build a case completely on cross-examination?
Well, and on the pre-filed testimony of staff in the company, and I will do a little cross, not a whole lot of cross, but I think for the most part, the testimony will be what we'll rely on, the existing testimony.
Okay, I just find that highly unusual. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the Commissioners? Hearing none, thank you very much, Mr. Poston. Mr. Cooper, would you like to call your first witness?
We would call Mr. Helms. Judge, do you need to swear in Mr. Helms before we move forward?
Yes, sir.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Helms, would you state your full name for us?
My full name is Gara Fred Helms. I go by the nickname of Rick.
What is your position with Foxfire Utility Company?
I'm the president of Foxfire Utility Company, and I'm also a trustee of the Rick and Janet Helms Revocable Trust that owns all of the outstanding shares of Foxfire Utility Company.
Have you caused to be prepared for the purposes of this proceeding certain direct and surrebuttal testimony in question and answer form?
I have.
Is it your understanding that that testimony has been marked as Exhibits 1 and 2 for identification?
It is.
I think, based upon our prior conversations, there's a couple of things that we probably need to correct in your direct testimony. Is that consistent with your understanding?
Yes, it is.
Okay. In your direct testimony on page 7 and then line 20, there is a reference to a December 31, 2019 vote by the board of OCWC to purchase Foxfire's assets. Is it or should that date instead be December 9th of 2019?
Yes, that was a typographical error on my part.
And then also on that same page, lines 7 through 12, there's a question and an answer concerning rate base. Is it your understanding that when I offer testimony, I will not offer that question and answer?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. If I were to ask you the questions which are contained in Exhibits 1 and 2 today, would your answers, with the adjustments we've just discussed, be the same?
They would be the same.
Are those answers true and correct to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
They are.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would offer Exhibits 1 and 2 into evidence And again, as to Exhibit 1, that would be with the exception of direct testimony, page 7, lines 7 to 12. I would offer with that change, Exhibits 1 and 2 into evidence, and then tender the witness for cross-examination.
Okay, as to Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, are there any objections, Mr. Stacy?
No objections, Your Honor.
Mr. Poston?
No objections.
Okay, then. Exhibits 1 and Exhibits 2 are admitted on the record, or into evidence. Proceed.
I believe nothing more from me, and I would turn it over to cross-examination, Your Honor.
Mr. Stacy, do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Helms?
Just a couple, Judge. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Now, you're the owner of Foxfire, is that correct?
That's correct.
And previously, years ago, you're a member of the OCWC Board of Directors, is that right?
That's correct.
And when the vote was taken to accept the offer from or OCWC Board of Directors, when they accepted the offer or voted on the offer, were you a part of that vote?
I was not present at that board meeting, no.
Did you abstain from that vote?
I was not present, so I did not need to abstain. But I would have abstained, yes. So I guess the answer is yes.
Okay. Are you currently a member of the Board of Directors for OCWC?
No, sir.
When did you resign from that?
I'd have to check my records, but I believe it was in August of 2019.
Okay. Did you review the staff's memorandum?
Yes,
Did you review the part where it talked about previous cases that the commission granted approval?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
There were two cases mentioned in the staff's memorandum
Yes,
that indicated from 2015 and a 2017 case. You remember
Yes.
those?
yes, sir.
Where the commissioner approved the sale.
Yes, sir.
One of them was WM-2015-0231. The purchase price there was $5.2 million,
Yes, sir.
and the rate base was $2.9 million.
Yes, sir.
And the commission approved that sale, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In WM 2017-0186, the staff recommended disapproval for that one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the purchase price of that was $6 million, and it was 155% above the rate base of $2.4 million, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And the commission approved that purchase and sale to the other company, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in this case, yours is only 13 times.
Yes, sir.
All right, nothing further, Judge.
Any cross-examination, Mr. Poston?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Helms, you may be excused.
Thank you.
Yes? Pardon me?
Commission have any questions?
Oh, excuse me. I apologize. Please sit down.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I apologize, yeah. Do the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Helms?
No questions, Judge.
Any others? Okay, now, Mr. Helms, you may be excused.
Thank you.
Mr. Cooper, do you have any other witnesses?
We do. We would call Mr. Casaletto to the stand, please.
Mr. Castelletto, do you solemnly swear to or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Would you please state your full name?
David Lewis Castelletto.
Mr. Castelletto, what is your position with Ozark's Clean Water Company?
I'm president of the board of directors.
Have you caused to be prepared for the purposes of this proceeding certain direct and sir rebuttal testimony in question and answer form?
I have.
Is it your understanding that that testimony has been marked as Exhibits 100 and 101 for identification?
Yes.
Do you have any changes that you would like to make to that testimony at this time?
No.
If I ask you the questions which are contained in Exhibits 100 and 101 today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Are those answers true and correct to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer Exhibits 100 and 101 at this time.
Are there any objections?
No objections from staff, Judge.
No objections.
Okay, then. Exhibits 100 and 101 are received into evidence.
We would then tender Mr. Castelletto for cross-examination.
Mr. Stacy?
No questions, Judge.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Castelletto.
Good morning.
So your direct testimony identifies at least 3 companies where you serve as president. Is that correct?
Yes.
And one of those, as you just mentioned with Mr. Cooper, was OCWC.
Yes.
And another one that you mentioned in your testimony is H2 Ozarks. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And do you receive compensation for your work with H2 Ozarks?
Not directly. My pay directly comes from the third company,
Okay. And which company is that?
Ozark Environmental Services.
Okay. And you and Mr. Helms worked for Ozark Environmental Services together in 2016, correct?
Yes, we did.
And Ozark's Environmental Services, will you could please explain, what does Ozark Environmental Services do for Foxfire?
They provide the operation and maintenance licensed operation workers that go to the plant, check it out, make sure it's running properly. If something needs repaired, they fix it, and just generally make sure it's meeting DNR permit requirements.
And if the commission were to approve this transfer, the plan is to keep Ozark's Environmental Services running the Foxfire system.
It is, yes.
So you first brought this proposed transfer of the Foxfire system to the Ozarks Clean Water Company board in a July 10th, 2019 email. Is that correct?
I did.
Judge, I'd like to have an exhibit marked. I believe this will be 3. I think that's the number set I got.
Okay, bring it on up. What number did you say this was, Mr. Poston?
300. And Judge, I'm not sure how we go about having an official copy that we give to the court reporter. Do you just want me to take the copy that I've given to him and then give it to you when I'm done?
I would like you to email a copy of that to exhibits@psc.mo.gov.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Costello, I've handed you what's been marked as Exhibit 300. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yes,
And is this the email that you sent to the Board of Directors explaining the proposed transfer of assets?
yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to offer Exhibit 300.
Are there any objections?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Hearing none, Exhibit 300 is received into evidence.
I have another exhibit I'd like to have marked as 301. So in the email that is Exhibit 300, it's an attempt to set up a board meeting, correct?
Yes,
And then on July 15th, 2019, the board did meet to discuss the acquisition of Foxfire,
Yes.
correct?
yes.
Is Exhibit 301 that I handed you, is this an accurate copy of the Board of Directors meeting minutes from that July 15th, 2019 meeting?
Yes, it is.
To offer Exhibit 301 into the record?
Are there any objections?
No objections from staff, Judge.
Hearing none, Exhibit 301 is received into evidence.
That's all the cross I have, Judge.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll ask if there is any cross requested. Or does anybody else?
I think I'm up for redirect, maybe,
Oh,
Judge.
redirect. How about redirect then?
Mr. Castelletto, a couple of things. Do you have that last exhibit 301 in front of you that Mr. Poston put into evidence?
I do.
Okay. And that's the board minutes, correct?
It is.
Okay. Two questions. Well, I'm not going to limit myself because it'll be more than two questions. Did the board, subsequent to this meeting, address this purchase with Foxfire? And what I mean by that is this price that's listed is $1 million financed and $55,000 down, and we know that's not the transaction that's before the commission today. So I assume that the board addressed this purchase later than the July 2019 meeting that's represented here.
Yes, the board came back and circumstances changed, and while the payments didn't change over the 20-year period, the terms of the purchase price did change.
And when did that happen approximately?
December of 2019.
And by that time, Mr. Helms had resigned from the board of directors, correct?
Yes, he resigned in August.
Okay. Subsequent to the December meeting, did the board take up that the questions from the December meeting more recently?
Yes, there was a question raised, and we decided it would be best if we would, I'm going to get my words, reapprove by resolution what happened in 2019, and that happened just lately in 2022.
And so the board ratified that earlier decision at that time?
It did, yes, it did.
Now, looking at the board minutes in front of you, there's a reference to Director Meyer report that has inquired about raising the current rates. Is there any plan to raise the current rates for Foxfire?
There's no plan to raise rates. We, as a board, look at all rates and just see if there's equipment or chemicals or those type of things go up each year. But other than that, there's no plan to raise rates.
There's also a reference to profit margin. Does OCWC have a profit?
No, it doesn't. And our accounting software, QuickBooks, by default, calls that profit and loss. And in the nonprofit world, which all three companies that I'm president of are 501c3 charitable nonprofits, that word should be surplus.
And what happens to surplus if you have surplus at OCWC?
Just goes to reserve for repair or just used for the day-to-day activities of the business. There's no profit, there's no dividends paid, just stays in the company.
Now, do you still have in front of you Exhibit 300?
I do.
Now, that's your calculation as of, kind of a rough calculation of the financials related to this purchase as of July 10 of 2019, correct?
Yes, it is.
I see on there that at the time you were assuming 255 units. If you were to do that calculation today, would you use 255 units?
No, in fact, the current number of units 258, but then if you add in the already under construction or under planning, there's an additional amount of units being built. So we'd use a little bit different number if we were going to calculate today. Higher.
There would be more units, more
Yes.
more customers, essentially.
That's
correct?
right, yes.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I think you can step down, Mr. Castelletto.
You can step down, Mr. Castelletto. You excused. Or did you have any recross? I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, are there any other witnesses?
No more witnesses for the applicant or OCWC.
Mr. Stacy, does staff have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, we have two. Staff calls Jared Robertson.
Mr. Robertson, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Stacy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Jared James Robertson, J-A-R-R-O-D, J-A-M-E-S. Last name Robertson, R-O-B-E-R-T-S-O-N.
And by whom are you employed?
Missouri Public Service Commission.
And what is your position there?
I'm a senior research data analyst with the Water and Sewer and Steam Department.
And have you prepared and filed testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I have.
Specifically, rebuttal testimony filed on September 23rd, 2022, as set forth in Staff Exhibit Number 200.
Yes.
Do you have any changes or corrections to make to this document set forth in Staff Exhibit 200?
Yes, we have outlined a few bullets that could be edited at this time.
Permission to approach, Judge, the witness.
Go ahead.
And do you have those changes in front of you?
Yes, I do.
And what are those changes?
As I said, these are written out in a bullet form, so they may not flow smoothly, but we changed a date on Schedule JJR2 from December 32nd to December 31. Page 12 of 20, in the from portion on page 6, my title should be analyst, not analyst. Not analysis, it should be analyst. And then for Keith Foster, his title was reversed. It should be Financial and Business Analysis Division. Also, we have an addition to a repeating page 2 of 4 in each header on each page. And then in Scott Stacy's line in the form from portion on the first page, we have no space between June and 28. That concludes all edits.
I'd like to, all right. Are those questions, or if I were to ask you those same questions in those documents with these changes, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Are those questions and answers true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 200 to be admitted into evidence, as well as the changes corrections document that I handed to the parties as be admitted as Exhibit 203.
Are there any objections to the admission of exhibit number 200 and exhibit number 203 into evidence?
No, Judge.
No objection.
Hearing none, exhibits 200 and 203 are received into evidence.
Staff tenders Mr. Robinson for cross-examination.
Any cross-examination for Mr. Robinson?
None from Foxfire or OCWC.
Mr. Bojan?
Thank you. I do have a few. Good morning, Mr. Robertson.
Morning.
Document. I'll give you a minute to look at that.
Mr. Poston, do you have copies of what you've handed the witness?
I do. So now in your memo in this case, I believe you may have referenced the initial case, the Foxfire, and well, let me scratch that. The document I've handed you, would you agree to the amended application of Foxfire Utility Company, case number WA-95-31, dated November 17th, 1994?
It does appear so.
And I've flagged a line on page 3 of that for you. And it's down towards the bottom. It's in paragraph 8. I'm just going to read that, and you tell me if I've read that accurately. There's a sentence that starts when fully developed. So sentence is, when fully developed, this 50-acre development will contain 89 buildings having 6 units each for a total of 534 dwelling units. Did I read that accurately?
Yes.
I have another document, but I apologize, I don't have additional copies, but I will show it to counsel before I approach the witness. you could take a moment to get familiar with that document. And my question is going to be pretty quick. Would you agree that the I handed you is the staff memorandum in case number WR-2000 or 2002-1162 dated October 15th, 2002?
It does appear to be staff's memorandum for that case, yes.
And I flagged a sentence on page 2. Can you please turn there? Well, actually, if I can get you to turn back actually to start, just down at the bottom, background, it talks about Foxfire Utility Company. And this identifies this case as a small company rate increase request of Foxfire. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the page 2, what I've flagged is in the second full paragraph, the very last sentence, I'm just going to read a portion of that. It says, the company provides water service to approximately 184 customers in Stone County. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And currently the company has 258 customers, is that correct?
That is correct.
So would you agree that in the past 20 years, the company has added only 74 customers?
The math seems correct, yes.
And that's roughly 3.7 customers per year, is that correct?
I'd have to use a calculator for that.
Okay. Do you have a calculator?
Sure. Didn't even see it at first. Could I have those figures again, please?
Yeah, it's, I guess it would be the difference between 258 customers and 184 customers, which, do you get 74?
Yes.
Okay. And then you divide that by the 20 years since the company was at 184 customers. That'd be roughly 3.7 customers per year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. I don't intend to offer these as a commission record, but I have no more questions.
Any redirect? Hearing none, are there any questions from the commissioners? Okay. With no other needs, Mr. Robertson, you're excused. Thank you. Mr. Stacy, do you have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Staff calls Keith Foster.
Do you solemnly swear to or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Keith Foster, Keithfoster.
And by whom are you employed?
Public Service Commission.
And what is your position there?
I am a utility regulatory auditor supervisor.
Okay, and have you prepared and filed testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I did.
Specifically, rebuttal testimony filed on September 23, 2022, as set forth in Staff Exhibit 201.
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or corrections to make to this document set forth in Exhibit 201?
No, I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions in this document today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Are those questions and answers true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 201 into evidence.
Are there any objections to the admission of exhibit number 201 into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit number 201 is received into evidence.
Staff tenders Mr. Foster for cross-examination.
Proceed.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Poston?
No questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Foster from the commissioners? Well, hearing none, I have no questions. Are there any other questions for Mr. Foster?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, well, Mr. Foster, you're excused.
And staff has no further witnesses, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. Poston?
I have no witnesses.
Mr. Poston, okay. Are there any final matters that we need to discuss?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Stacy, before you leave, could you bring me up another copy of Exhibit 203? Okay, there are no late filing of exhibits. And the schedule for briefing is in the order setting procedural schedule issued, order setting the procedural schedule issued on August 17th of this year. Initial briefs are to be filed simultaneously no later than November 16th, 2022, and reply briefs are to be filed simultaneously no later than November 30th, 2022. Are there any other matters that need to be addressed before we adjourn?
A quick question. I just want to make sure I got the email address correct for sending those two exhibits. It's exhibits, plural, @psc.mo.gov.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If there are no other matters that need to be addressed, then the proceeding is adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
We are off the